Hello and welcome, everyone. We'll give it just a moment for all of our participants to join before we get started. All right, I'm seeing our number of participants start to even out, so I'll go ahead and get us started. Hi, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Natalie Vandenberg, Senior Coordinator of Fellowship at the Chef Ann Foundation. We are so excited to be here with you today with some current fellows and alumni and some of the leaders from their district to share more about the Healthy School Food Pathway Fellowship. Today, we will do a quick overview of who we are at the Chef Ann Foundation, what the Healthy School Food Pathway Program Fellowship Program is all about, and then we'll jump right into hearing from our panelists so you can hear directly from them about their experiences. And then before we leave, we'll quickly go over the timeline for the 2025 cohort and how you can apply. So you may already know us, but if you don't, the Chef Ann Foundation was founded in 2009 by Chef Ann Cooper, and we are dedicated to promoting whole ingredient scratch cooking in schools. We believe that scratch cooking enables schools to serve the healthiest, tastiest meals so that kids are well nourished and ready to learn. Our mission is to ensure that school food professionals have the resources, funding, and support they need to provide fresh, healthy, delicious, scratch cooked meals that support the health of children and our planet. We work with K-12 schools in all 50 states and some US territories. And to date, we've helped more than 14,000 schools and 3.4 million kids eat healthier, fresher school meals. The Healthy School Food Pathway fellowship is part of our larger Healthy School Food Pathway program, which was created to strengthen the school food workforce by preparing individuals for job opportunities in healthy scratch cook school food programs. And the reason that we got into workforce development was because in the first decade of our work, we saw how much labor challenges were a barrier to scratch cooking in schools. So while the first two phases of that journey, you can see on the graphic, the pre-apprenticeship and the apprenticeship, are designed to grow a skilled school food workforce, the fellowship is designed to develop the next generation of diverse leaders who are prepared to operate sustainable, scratch-cooked school food programs and drive school food reform. The fellowship is an intensive program for mid to upper level K-12 school food professionals. Over the course of 13 months, fellows participate in virtual learning sessions, on-site training, and hands-on projects to gain the skills, knowledge, and confidence to create change in their own district. To learn more about the program goals, components, and eligibility requirements, there is a pre-recorded webinar that you can find on our website. I believe it's also being dropped in the chat. But instead of digging into all of that nuts and bolts here, we will jump right into hearing from our panel. So I am so thrilled to be joined here today by this wonderful group of people. I'll introduce them one by one and then pass it over to them to get started and share their experiences. So we are joined by Missy Terrell, who is one of our current fellows, who is production manager at Pittsburgh Public Schools. Sean Rivera, who is the central kitchen chef and supervisor at Sacramento City Unified School District, who is also joined by Kelsey Netterveld, director of nutrition services at Sacramento City Unified. From last year's fellows, we are joined by Nick Vadia, district sous chef at Virginia Beach City Public Schools, as well as assistant and acting director of food services, Rachel Amato from VBCPS. And lastly, also from our 2023 cohort, we are joined by Warren Ryan, nutrition services assistant director at San Bernardino City Unified School District in California. So with all of that, let me pull down my slides and open it up to our panel with our first question. So what I would love to hear from all of you is what motivated you to apply for the fellowship? And Kelsey and Rachel, as leaders in your districts, why would you encourage someone in your team to apply for this opportunity? So I'll pass it over first to Nick and Rachel at VBCPS.
Thank you, Natalie. For me, the motivation was just, I'm an opportunist, and I was falling head over heels for school nutrition, and I wanted to learn as much as I could. And actually, Rachel, assistant director, she approached me with this fellowship and kind of explained to me what she had learned from Laura Smith, And we watched the video that the Chef Ann Foundation created about the fellowship. And after the two of us watched it, I looked at Rachel and said, I'm applying. And with her help, she was my video assistant. We put together the application and got it turned in, but it's been an amazing experience, and I would recommend it to anyone.
So to piggyback off of Nick is, yes, I was super excited. I had learned about the fellowship program from Lauren during a last year's Farm to School and Directors Conference for Virginia for VDOE. And it was really interesting to me, and we have a lot of amazing untapped talent in the district. And so getting the Chef Ann support to bring out these leadership qualities and this great ability to network professionally with others across the nation really is important for our district, but also important for us as, you know, professionals to develop that way. And it really did help us in a lot of ways with our procurement. Chef Nick's specific fellowship capstone was really great for our district to show how we could open up local procurement more. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick and Rachel. Missy, I'll pass it over to you next.
Sure thing. I had a few accolades underneath my belt before I decided to come into the school food scene. And so I'm like, well, why do they not use bacon grease? And why do we not have ham? And why do we not have those things? And so my director said, well, I think because, you know, this is school food, certainly you need to do a little bit of research and reading. I was very new to school food at the time. And he was a tremendous fan of Chef Ann and had worked with her previously. And I started doing some research, and I was like, well, I have to be a part of this. I want to experience this because I want to know. So because my mind is a mental Rolodex, one of the things that was the most interesting to me was the list of things that I was going to learn and experience. So I knew that it was going to help me, and I'm like, well, game on, let's do this thing and let's make it happen. So super excited, and it has been a whirlwind of wonderful experience. So I'm super excited to be here.
I love that. Thank you, Missy. Warren, I'll let you go next, please.
So when I looked at the requirements for the fellowship, I will be honest, I was completely overwhelmed. It looks like a very big task, but I was encouraged by my director who went through and was like, hey, you're always talking about how you want to grow, how you want to change the program, how you want to shape the program. This is going to be where we do it. So with myself, alongside our district chef, we applied, and gratefully we were able to both get accepted and experience everything that the fellowship and the Chef Ann Foundation has to offer. And so I truly encourage anyone and everything, don't be discouraged by what the skill set says or the work says, but really look for those silver linings and look for those experiences that you may not experience in the four walls of your district. And I know I say it's four walls, and many of us have so many larger spaces than one kitchen, but it truly is where we are bound by what it is. And so really that motivation to continue to strive is to see what everybody else is out there. If someone else can do it, then there's no reason why we couldn't do it.
Thanks, Warren. Sean and Kelsey, do you want to close this out?
Yeah. So for me, I had actually taken a trip over to Boulder Valley School District. And during my time there, I ran into some of the fellows that were there for the 2023 cohort. And before then, I didn't really hear about Chef Ann Foundation or this fellowship pathway. And just talking with them and seeing the things that they were learning and all the impacts it was making for them in their own district. When I came back home, I started looking more into it. And then at the same time, my director had came to me and was like, hey, there's this opportunity to apply for a fellowship. Are you interested? I'm like, oh my gosh, the timing of it is just perfect. So from there, I applied, and here we are today.
Yeah, and I think to echo Sean, what I love about school nutrition, and I've only been in school nutrition, which is kind of a wild thought, is none of us are in competition with each other, right? We are not competing for the same students. And so it fosters a sense of collaboration and partnership amongst districts to find out what's working for you, what's not working, what's a slam dunk. And, you know, it's really challenging as a district leader. You know, we want to impart our knowledge on the people that are going to come behind us, right? And you need infrastructure, you need curriculum, you need a plan. And that takes a lot of work that I don't think a lot of us have a lot of time to implement. And so being able to, you know, have Sean be part of this program, like, oh my gosh, you're learning about eligibility and CEP and, you know, all of these things. And it's all that knowledge that we want to impart, but we just simply don't have the bandwidth to do it. And so being able to have this program available to our staff that are taking that self-initiative to grow in school nutrition is such a fantastic opportunity. And we need more people seeing that school nutrition is a viable career path for them. And so it's super exciting because I do think programs like this can change the way that our kids see food, and it can change the system as a whole, really just for the food system infrastructure piece of it as well.
That is certainly the goal. Well said. Thank you all so much for sharing. Next up for our fellows, current and graduated, could you describe a specific moment or experience in the fellowship that was particularly impactful for you? And Missy, I'll start with you.
So I think one of the things that was impactful was that I had just coming from a culinary background, feeling a little bit alone out there in the world, making the changes from process to from scratch. And so when I had the opportunity to go and meet the other fellows, meet Sean, who I call my sister in food, and you know, we talk a good bit and you know, go back and forth about just ideas and things that are happening in our districts. I felt like I had my tribe, my we. And so meeting them in person, and they're not just faces on a screen, being able to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Are you seeing this in your district? Hey, I need help with this. Who is aware of what do we know? So I didn't feel so alone in that journey. As well, being able to learn a lot just from their different experiences was pretty impactful. And getting a chance to see other districts with them was amazing and incredible, because I got a chance to say I was there, and then I came back with better understanding. So lots of the things that I learned with them, lots of the things that I saw, I'm now able to bring back and apply to the district and be the most impactful, not just there, but here.
Thanks, Missy. Nick.
This is a good question, because it's hard to really specify one moment or experience, because I had so many. But for me, I think I would have to choose the Scratchworks conference. I think my experience there was very similar to Missy, in that, you know, just the networking, talking with others, you know, sharing your experiences and your challenges, and hearing their experiences and their challenges, and seeing that you aren't the only one experiencing these challenges, and getting tips and tricks from other people about, you know, what worked for them in certain situations. And again, just that sense of community, knowing that there's so many districts in this country that are moving in that direction of scratch cooking and providing their students and our students with, you know, the best nutritious product in school food that we can. That I walked away from that conference like really feeling motivated and you know, a sense of belonging.
Totally. Sean.
So I'm going to go along the lines of, you know, Missy, meeting everybody in the fellowship. Everybody has different roles in their districts. Not everybody's a chef, not everybody's a director. Everybody has different experiences and skill levels. And even though we have met mostly online, just those in-person connections have really been impactful to us. And now we have that circle that supports us when we need it. They're cheering us on, but they also help us walk through a lot of obstacles. Our districts vary in sizes, and as Kelsey was saying, sometimes there's not enough bandwidth to teach everybody everything there is to know about school nutrition. And being part of that fellowship, everything is compacted into this year-long program, so we get a taste or a touch of everything that's in school nutrition. So we're open up to a lot of different paths or directions that maybe we didn't see for ourselves going in the future, like, oh, maybe I want to work more in procurement, or maybe I want to get more into legislative stuff, you know. So it really opened up, and then just having that family, that connection, really it means a lot. I stay in touch with a lot of our fellows from this year. We're on a weekly chat, not just on Zoom, but even the fellows that I met previously on the side trip, you know, I still connect with on a daily basis. So now I have even a family here in Northern California from other school districts. So it's going to be one of the most impactful experiences so far for me.
Thanks, Sean. Warren.
So I would say going through the fellowship for 13 months, it's really hard to just pick one impactful moment. And so I really had to narrow it down to two. The first one really being that first initial site visit. Going to a different school district and visiting a site that is doing all the things that you only ever dreamed of was really that aha moment. Is that throughout school nutrition, a lot of individuals will say, hey, you know what, that's not possible. We can't do it because we've never. And when you can physically go and you can talk to the people who are the boots on the ground, and you can talk to the people who are holding all the same roles that are with you in your own district or your neighboring districts, and they've already been able to think outside of that box, to where then you're building those connections with them to be able to understand how did you move from this prepackaged to this local product? How did you move from, you know, the local product to then even creating it yourself? There's so much growth that was able to being realized. And then the second moment would be is that time when during Scratchworks, when all of the fellows finally came together and we all united. And I'll tell you that group chat still exists to this day. It has to be muted because it goes off way too often. Sometimes just as a sounding board, sometimes as idea filterings, and sometimes as that safe place to just really talk about, you know, the true reality of school nutrition and your challenges that you're going through. And so between just the fellows in general, and then also the other people that are in that room at Scratchworks that are all going through the same things, it's been just so tremendous to be able to benefit my district, benefit my team, help me to see things in a new light that I never even knew was possible. So great times each and every step of the way.
Thank you all. It's awesome to hear how these program components, you know, come to life, you know, through the experiences you all have. Kelsey and Rachel, this one's for you. How has having a member of your team participate in the fellowship impacted your district's ability to increase scratch cooking? And Kelsey, over to you first. Yeah.
I would say, I mean, I think it's twofold. And I think it's, again, echoing what everybody else has said is, you know, watching Sean go through part of this program, you know, she's coming back and asking questions, and they're questions that she has learned from other people, or there's questions where now she's applying what she's seen at other districts or from other, you know, fellows to say, hey, have we thought about doing X, Y, and Z? And sometimes it's like, yes, we have, and here's all the reasons why, or here's why we tried it and it didn't work. But again, it helps her and our other teammates to connect the dots as to why we do what we do, or why certain things are possible with our district or why they're not, right? And so it gets the conversation going. And I feel like that has had a ripple effect on our team of just, you know, when we're all in a meeting, Sean, yes, is the only one on our team that's in the fellows program. But when she brings ideas or conversations up in front of our larger group, it gets our other team thinking in a different light too. And so having that ability to have really good, thoughtful and intentional conversation about what the menu's looking like, what we can put on, what we can't put on because of, you know, all of these different factors or procurement or whatnot, has been really great just overall for our department. And so I guess I would encourage people that are, you know, anticipating like, oh, I'd want to send everyone, or, you know, how's my larger team going to benefit from this? You know, the conversations that come back, if you have a really engaged member of your team that is really vested and really is bought into, you know, the school nutrition and wanting to change the world, it will have that ripple effect in in so many different ways.
Thanks, Kelsey. Rachel.
I think I echo Kelsey in that it starts the conversation early on and often. It's not just the first conversation and you know, it becomes a conversation that what do we think about this? What's next? You know, it helped with us for local procurement. We try to do a lot of local procurement already, but it additionally added, how do we get to these farmers that are local? How do we get to production levels with the size of our district and things like that, that really push the envelope for us forward in the way we think about scratch food and scratch cooking. And we look at percentages and look at the data every quarter and just push to that next level and make sure that we have student inspired meals. And I think that Nick has been very integral in pushing that level to the next.
Thank you. Our next question is back to our fellows. How has your participation in the fellowship helped you grow professionally? How has it positively impacted your career trajectory, or how do you anticipate or hope that it will? And Warren, I'll start with you this time.
So the participation has truly helped expand what I believe our capacity to be. So the theme has been is that just because one person goes, it doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact on the entire department and the entire district as a whole. It's that not just, it's made me a better leader. It's made me be able to see things from different perspectives. It's made me a better communicator within the district and within the small area that we have, and that I become, I wouldn't say reliant, but I become more willing to talk through all of it, because we don't share our customers, we share our vendors. You know, we share our local farmers, we share our local producers of any local product that we have, but our customers, we're not fighting, as it was said before, for one another. And so it's really just helped that professional piece. It's opened my eyes to so many different possibilities, and then adding to those possibilities is helped navigate through some of those labor and food cost challenges, and realizing that, yes, some things can be a bigger cost, but think beyond the cost and what the greater good is that if you want to see your numbers rise, make better food, and it will automatically pay for itself. And so professionally, I see myself continuing to find ways to transform our district. And, you know, I'm not looking to go anywhere, but should I leave, I want to be able to make that mark to help transform others to see outside the box.
Thank you, Warren. Sean.
All right. So for me, my participation here to grow professionally is meeting with those mentors and those leaders that we meet with on a weekly basis or in person, having those conversations. Some of them are tough conversations, holding yourself accountable. What are you really trying to do here? And so I think that I have developed myself and become a better leader, but not only for myself, but also to develop my team. And it really has helped me solidify what my goals here for my district is and what I want to do to be part of this program here, and how I can trickle that down to my team to have them support and be in alignment with those goals. So.
Thank you, Sean. Nick, or wait, no, Missy. Gotta stay in order.
Okay. I think as a leader, the fellowship has helped me grow, because I can now sit at the table and have educated conversations that I wasn't able to have before. So when you talk about impact, I will lovingly and jokingly say that the fellowship has got me in trouble sometimes. Because in our flow meetings, as we're having these really hard conversations, I get to say, well, that's not what the fellowship says we should do. Here's what we should consider. And, you know, there's the shock factor. And well, wait a second, why are we not thinking about that? I'm like, see, there are other times where I'm a little short, you know, and my director says, well, you know, we're going to have a conversation with the fellowship, because I don't think that they would like that. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? So we have a camaraderie where we can joke and go back and forth about the expectation, but the expectation is very serious for all of us, and that we are fighting for our kids. And what that means is that we're fighting for the health of our kids, which is to say we're also fighting for the health and future of our kids, which is the reason why we go from all that process to from scratch. And so as a leader, you have to shift into that visionary space where in a time where you say that you couldn't do, you now have reasons for why you can do, and you have different strategies for how you get there.
Yes, thank you, Missy. All right, Nick.
All right, and for me, I think confidence. I would have to say confidence building. It allowed me to be more confident in my decision making, in my leadership skills, just in all of every factor of each day, operations wise, interacting with my coworkers. The fellowship has provided me with a little bit of confidence in each of those areas so that I can be more professional in my communications. I could be more confident in what I'm telling them is the knowledge that I've learned and incurred, and the wisdom too. I think a great way for me to kind of put it all together is knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing that it doesn't belong in a fruit salad. And so that's kind of what I use when I'm preparing like this fellowship, is really brought me not only the knowledge side of it, but the wisdom side of it. And I think that's been huge in my professional growth.
Thank you all. And this question is for the whole group again. So we've spoken to this some, but if you could just expand on how the fellowship has expanded your professional network and your connections within the school food community. And Kelsey and Rachel, how do you think these connections have benefited your departments? Warren, we'll start with you.
I look at the professional network that the fellowship brought. Is we can start a lot with just the fellows alone, is that every single fellow in the cohort comes from a different background, from a different district with a different population, many from different states, and from all levels. And so as we were going through different topics, we were in a safe space that we could safely talk about everything that was going on in that topic, and really help to understand how it affects each aspect of the organization, from our hardworking school food service professionals that are in the front line serving the meals, all the way up to the top where they're the ones that are planning and organizing and doing all the costing. And so having that group of people who you can act as a sounding board and you can say, hey, what are we doing? Have you done this? What do you think about this? And then taking that network back to be able to plug it into, hey, I know so-and-so 20 miles down the street does it this way. Do you think we can do it? And the answer isn't, oh no, it's, hey, let's go see. And so it's building that professional connection where we run into each other at conferences, at shows, where we reach out, and then going beyond just the fellows to site visits, to the Chef Ann Foundation that's been gracious enough to then continue to build their connections and continue to build their role in every space. And so then expanding into what the importance of the community is during one of the site visits that we did, is I realized the importance of also tapping into those small businesses, where when you're finding a small business who can make something locally for you, they didn't understand the regulations when you started, but through education and through a commitment and a relationship, they were then able to develop a product where you can say, hey, this is local. We may not have personally made it because we don't have the knowledge, or we don't have the machines or the manpower, but I can tell you it was made with clean ingredients, and it was made with the best intent in mind for all of our students. And so these connections have all been essential and vital in continuing to shape and mold our program for the future, to increase scratch cooking, to make our meals not only healthier, but also taste better. Because it doesn't matter how healthy a meal is if it tastes like a piece of cardboard. And so really building those connections to continue to find those ways that when sodium's cut by 10%, hey, Nick, how did you make this work? And so I value each and every partnership and each and every connection that we've built and all of those that we continue to foster throughout the days.
Awesome. Thank you, Warren. Nick and Rachel, let's hear from you.
All right. For me, the network, like Warren said, with the fellows, our group chats that we do, our group emails chains that we have every once in a while, just asking those tough questions and getting everyone's feedback. But for me also is the state networking. Through the Chef Am Foundation, I've been introduced to the Virginia Department of Education and their leadership team, and it's allowed me to collaborate with them, as well as being able to have the opportunity to talk with the USDA at their all-employee meeting. So the fellowship has, for me personally, provided me with so many doors to go into and meet and network with people on the federal, on the state, and on the local level, because now I get to, because of the state level, get to communicate with our fellow districts around us, divisions around us, and collaborate with them and help them, and because they kind of look at our division, our district, as one of the leaders in our state for what scratch cooking and culture and inspired meals. And I love when they reach out and ask us for ideas and recipes, and can we have like someone come by and visit your district? And I just think that it's all about having that open network, that communication, and just really sharing that knowledge with everyone. So I think the fellowship has really opened it up for me in my experience.
Absolutely. The professional networking, especially since we're in a location that's, we have 7 cities that are all right next door to each other. And so we all help each other out. And, I can say, hey, Nick, it's really nice as a leader too, to delegate a little bit of that, hey, can you check in with, Trisha in Suffolk and ask her what she did about this? Or, hey, did she experience this with the VDOE, which is really nice. So it's nice to have those kind of professional chats just to get the ball rolling about what you want to do in the future. And that networking really does just expand what your district can do. And it also helps in a way that changes the perspective of your community. Right? We all work in this little kind of vacuum of food services. And like you said at the intro, Natalie, we want to encourage people that this is a viable profession. And a lot of us came from, being chefs or being in the outside world that is not public service. And so that kind of networking and showing that this is a really great profession that gives back a lot, I think helps by having such a large name and such a large ability with the Chef Am Foundation.
Thank you, Nick and Rachel. Missy.
I think since the fellowship, my network has grown tremendously, and I use all of it. I have the ability to use all of it, whether the foundation supplied that network to me when there was more content that I needed to understand a little more deeply. Having a tutor per se in someone in that profession that does that thing. When we talked about procurement, having a better working network with vendors, being able to go and visit farms as we talk about the farm to school and those programs. So I have relationship with so many people that are in different pieces of school food all the way around. So I'm able to pick up the phone in some cases and call and say, hey, I have questions, or email and say, hey, can we meet? And the answer has always been yes. And most times it is because those people that I'm in contact with are familiar with the foundation and know what our mission is like and how much our mission has changed in order to meet the needs of our kids. So there's never a time where it's a no, it's only a matter of when, so that we can get things done the way that we think our district needs to. And it's always been a benefit because each and every time I've always learned. I think if you don't learn from your network, because you can't do all of those things, right? I think you're doing a disservice to yourself. And the foundation has given me that all the way around, from vendors to even staff that are now interested in how the foundation thinks and what they're doing and where we are in the mix of those things. So they're super supportive, and I'm super appreciative for it.
Thank you, Missy. Sean and Kelsey.
All right. So for me, prior to joining the Chef Anna Foundation, this fellowship, I didn't reach out to other districts. I didn't network with other school food professionals outside of my own department here. And so participating in Chef Ann, it really opened me up to learning how to talk to people, how to reach out to people, what kind of questions to ask, and just feel more confident and that we're all here for the same thing. You know, there is no competition. We don't need to keep things secret to ourselves. Everybody's so open and kind and willing to share everything. We have a new central kitchen here, and I've never ran a central kitchen before. And why create things? Why recreate the wheel when I can reach out to others that have a central kitchen and see how they work through their struggles, or what is being successful for them, or these are the obstacles that we're running into, or just networking with the local districts here. I'm like, who are you using? What local farm are you using for beans, and who are you using for potatoes, and stuff like that, and making those connections from those districts with who they're connected with. And so the family just keeps on growing, and I couldn't be more appreciative for that network.
Yeah, and I think I'll echo that with what Sean said. I think the foundation within this pathway and this program, it scratches enough so that all the fellows, you know enough to be dangerous. And so you might not know everything on procurement, but you know enough to now be able to have the confidence to reach out and say, hey, are you going out to bid, or are you on an RFP, or you guys know enough, you're getting that nugget of information, and then you have the resources to fall back onto, and or the people within your fellowship that might be at a director level or at a buyer level or whatnot within their own respective departments, so that you know enough to be dangerous. And so if you know enough to be dangerous, then you're going to have the confidence to then reach out and get that information. And so I think that has just been such a great value add for us in regards to, Sean being a current fellow, and then we were lucky enough to host the last fellows for their graduation here at our central kitchen. So I've even, just being part of that graduation just ceremony as the host, we've been able to connect with a few of those folks as well from the previous cohort as well, of this is what we're doing, or they've reached out because how'd you guys do this on branding, or how'd you do this on, marketing? And so being able to be a resource to those folks as well has just been a great opportunity for all of us all around.
Thank you all. So I have a question from our audience, which is, we're hearing about the impact of the fellowship and all that it can do for your district. Fellows, for you, what was the day-to-day experience like? This is, Warren, you said when you first looked at the requirements, it was a bit intimidating, and I imagine that maybe proved out sometimes during the 13 months. Like it's definitely is a commitment to take on. So if somebody could speak to, or all of you, whoever feels led, could speak to sort of what was the experience like for you? How did you fit it into your life, knowing you're all also humans and have other things to do besides the fellowship, in addition to your full-time job and all the other things? So
I think
Missy.
Yes, I'm going to take a stab at that one. So I will answer it in two different ways. So the work requirements of the fellowship weren't as taxing as I thought that they were going to be. Because a lot of the things that I was learning in the fellowship, I think the work was important because then I was putting it into practice in my job anyway. So it was a win-win situation in that well, I'm learning this on a Tuesday night live session, and oh my goodness, it's Thursday, and here it is right in front of me. So I've got some education. So I'm putting the work in, but there's a result happening on the other side. So there's that. The second way I'll answer that question is that since the fellowship, based on the level of education that I've gained, I now have 2 other responsibilities on my job, which sounds a little bit crazy when your boss says, okay, we're moving these things to you because we know that you're built to do it. We also know that you have the knowledge and information to do it. I was worried at first in the beginning, but then when I think about what I've learned and I understand what I've learned, it wasn't that difficult at all because I had information that I can use to task what I needed to task. I was educated about where those things are coming from, whom I need to have the conversations with, what the costs and the analysis, the numbers are attached to that. So I had such a stronger foundation in that my worry, lots of my worry was almost eliminated, in that I knew what to do. I could not say that that was possible before the fellowship because I would have been lost and I would have been drowning. If I come upon a few pebbles in the road, and I'm calling them pebbles now, I've always been able to reach out and say, hey, Natalie, Maddie, I have this question. I'm struggling with this. And immediately the response is, hey, let us get you connected with this person because that's what they do. So I was a lot more confident in being able to work through any issues that I was having simply because I was better educated and I was more equipped to deal with what was going on. Do you have a little study time? You do. Do you have a few moments where you've got an assignment to turn in and it may be maybe an hour or 2 behind? You will have that. However, you've got to inspect what you expect. And I think that's how you're going to benefit from moments like that.
Thank you, Missy. Does anybody else want to speak to how they experienced the program in real time?
I can definitely add to that. Is this volume okay? Because I had to switch mics. Okay. So I would say that definitely on paper it does look very intimidating and very overwhelming. It definitely forces you to work on your time management skills. But I would say if that anyone considering, and I encourage everyone to consider, is that you work with your district and you get a full support before you get started. Because there will be weeks where you don't know where you're going to pull the extra minutes from. You don't know how you're going to get from meeting to meeting or from serving the, tens of thousands of kids that we all serve to be able to make that time. But I always try to tell people that when they don't have time, pull out your cell phone and look at that little piece that says what you did on your phone, and you will find how much extra time you have in your life. Because when I look down and I get that alert every week and it says, your cell phone usage is up, you're using it 4 hours and 37 minutes per day this week. That shows to me that somewhere I had time, and instead of using it to better the kids of San Bernardino, I was flipping through Facebook or scrolling through Instagram. And so, yes, it's a commitment, but I will tell you that if you can put your feet into the sand and you can really just buckle down, that it's going to be worth every trial, it's going to be worth every victory that you get, because you're going to have so many people that are standing by waiting for you to succeed. No one's standing by saying, hey, you know what? You can't do it. They're saying you can do it, and look at the impact that you have on the kids. And so there were times where, I may have been doing my school food service assignments at 10 o'clock at night while my kids are sleeping. But there's also other times where I was like, hey, you know what? I can breathe. I would add that if you currently go to conferences, then you already learned how to make time for travel into your schedule. And so let's make sure that when we are traveling, that we're making it impactful for what's going to truly benefit the kids. And I'm not saying that the conferences aren't impactful, but there's also other impact that we can get from seeing things from a different perspective.
Thank you. Sean or Nick, I think we have time for one more quick, if anybody wants to share their perspective before we close this out. Yeah, Sean.
I'll go ahead. It was a commitment, and like Warren said, when you see it on paper and you're like, oh, I got to meet every week, and there's going to be this class and all these readings and assignments, you're like, oh man, do I really have the time for it? But what you put into it, the return is so great. And you have such a support system in the foundation itself with the other fellows. But it is really important that you do have the support of your department and your district. And the return is not going to be just for yourself, it's going to be for them too, because it's going to benefit them the more that you know and all the ideas and experiences that you bring back to the district. So don't let what's on paper scare you away from applying. It's really worth it, and you will find the time, and it will come second nature to you. So yeah, you have an assignment, but you've been set up for success to get through that assignment, and it's not going to take you weeks or days to complete it. So, and the travel is probably the best part of the foundation, because you do get to connect with the fellows face to face. You're visiting other school districts and stuff. So the return is greater than what you're actually putting into it. So that's my piece on that.
Thank you all so much. And I will say, from our side too, we try to be humane. We try to be understanding. We know that life comes up, and, we'll work with you to navigate that. It's a commitment, but like everyone said, you get out of it what you put into it or more. So I want to honor our time commitment. So let me cue my screen back up to speak to the 2025 application. The application is open now, and it will be open through September 12th. It will close at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. Then in October, we will have our interviews with selected applicants, and we will notify all applicants of their selection status in late November. Then we do onboarding in December, and kick off in early January with our 2025 cohort for the 13 months of learning. And then fellows will graduate in January of 2026. Thank you so much to our panelists for being with us today. It was wonderful to see all of you, to hear from you. It is so powerful to hear from you how this program has impacted you, and you say it much better than we ever could. So thank you. For those who are listening, if this sounds like something you want to be a part of, go to our website, go to that URL, you'll find more information. You'll find a video from last year's graduation. You'll find that informational webinar with lots of nuts and bolts, and the link to apply. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have. We didn't get to all of the questions live or necessarily in the chat, so we will make sure we respond to all of those in our written FAQs on our website. We'll also send this recording out to everyone who registered so that you have that recording. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.